we're recording.
Wonderful. It is 4:05 according to my phone. Let's call the meeting to order. Has everybody read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Second.
All right. Approved. Similarly, have the personnel transactions been scrutinized?
I hope so.
Yes.
And a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
And now we move on to correspondence. Mayor Katie Bacher.
There were 3 items of correspondence received since we last met, all of which were from the New York State Civil Service. The first was an exam status update, which really wasn't particularly helpful. There was one exam we've been waiting for since it was canceled in April of 2020 as purchasing agent. We've had somebody provisional in that title since January of this year. And that, for whatever reason, I'm not entirely clear, but that was moved from December 11th and just canceled. So it has not been reallocated to a date. I'm not really sure why. There really was no explanation, but that was not the news we'd been hoping for. There is an accounting series that is pending scheduling. We have a provisional accountant who was hired in June. We had a request in for that last year. I put in another request just to be absolutely sure that the state was clear that we really definitely want to hold that exam, because I've been hearing with other agencies, sometimes folks are having, old exam requests aren't necessarily funneling through to the new schedule. So I just wanted to be sure that was done properly. Otherwise, no real updates there for any exams that really pertain to what we're doing. Then there were a couple of emails pertaining to the entry-level law enforcement exam that was just held this last weekend. Dave and Nancy and I did that. It went well. We had about, I don't know, Dave, what was it? Total 25 candidates, I think. We had 15 sit with us. It ended up being 14. We had 1 no-show. So that all went well. But the correspondence that we received from the state was just reminders about, hey, the exam's coming up. Don't forget to put your counts in. Just be sure you've got this stuff on your exam announcement. And so I'm happy to report that we were fully compliant with everything. We returned the exam materials. We had a couple of requests for alternate test dates that were, one alternate test date that was approved. We had our candidate counts in, and we followed the high security exam process, which is required. So happy to report that correspondence was received, and also we were compliant with all of it. So anxiously awaiting the scores, which will probably arrive sometime usually in January for an exam held in September.
15 took the test. How does that compare to previous years?
It's abysmal. It was, just to be fair, it was 15 that were sitting the exam. There were cross-filers, so there were 10 others who took the exam for the city of Oneonta as well as other municipalities. So we had a total of between 20 and 25. I think it was closer to 25.
Yep.
Dave's nodding.
Yeah, 25.
25, okay. So if you think about it, last year I was incredibly depressed because we had 30, and that was just horrible. And that was, still in the really heavy midst of the pandemic. So we were not happy with that. So to see our numbers even further down this year was not welcome news. I mean, compared to when I started here 5 years ago, we had 80, and before that it was well into the 100. So we're definitely seeing smaller candidate pools. However, when we review what's happening in other municipalities, other agencies, people are seeing similar trends. So this is not an Oneonta problem. We're thinking it's, just a kind of a state, national, regional trend about people just not, seeking out law enforcement as a career. I do think, though, that Acting Chief Witzenberg has said to me that he believes that while we are seeing fewer applicants in terms of numbers, the quality of the applicants we're getting is higher. So that is heartening. Whereas before we would, get 80 applicants and have only a handful that were suitable for an appointment. The thought is that the 25 or 30 we're getting are really, really quality folks. So
Good.
And we are trying with recruiting too. We did put up some nice posters around town this time. You know, we did do a very active social media campaign again this year, like we have in the last 2 years. One other thing that a lot of municipalities are doing, and I'd like to look into it for next year, is recruiting videos. There's some really clever videos out there that are being done by some municipalities, and I think that would be maybe a good opportunity for a college student to do some community service instead of, you know, the typical type of thing you think of community service, going out and, you know, cleaning up downtown or the park or something like that, but maybe doing a technical project to make a nice recruiting video for us. So it's something we definitely want to address before the next round of recruiting happens in June of next year.
Good idea.
Are all the exams down, or is it most notably the police?
It's, I don't know, Dave. It's most notably seen with the police just because that is our biggest exam and we typically have such high numbers. I mean, for our other exams outside of police officer, firefighter, you know, we don't really have huge applicant pools. And we also haven't been giving a ton of exams because they've all been canceled. So it's really hard to say.
Right, okay.
You know, we're giving a couple decentralized exams I think towards the end of October. And so that will be a pretty good litmus test for, you know, where we are in terms of the competitive civil service process. But we can talk about that under the exam status.
Alrighty. So you have the police sergeants eligible list?
We do.
for us?
So this was an exam that was administered back in June. It was held on a promotion basis. We had 6 candidates. I'm happy to report they all passed. And the list that is in front of you, we do have there's a provisionally appointed Detective Sergeant Tiemann. So I was glad to see that he was first on the list. He got a 94, did very well, very proud. He's doing a wonderful job. So it's anticipated that he would be appointed from this list. Otherwise, that will give us a list of 5 other highly qualified individuals, all of whom do a great job for any future vacancies. So this list, I'm suggesting that we adopt for a period of 4 years, which is, you know, pretty standard for commission policy. And because it was administered on a promotion basis, people are entitled to seniority credits, which is based on, for each 5-year block of service, there's a certain number of points that you get added to your raw score, which ends up determining your final score. So you will notice on this list there are.
We don't
seniority
have that
credits.
list.
You don't have it. I'm gonna pass it around, because
Oh,
this
okay.
one you actually have to sign off on.
Alright.
So attached to the list, you'll see the scores from the state, the print off, just in case anybody wants to verify the scores received versus what's on the list.
Does their score change over the next 4 years as they get more bonus?
Nope, the way that it's worded is that as of the date of the exam is how you calculate seniority points. So they will not be getting any additional seniority points. Of course, if they were to take the exam again in 2 years and they were to be in the next 5-year bracket, then they would be appropriately credited with seniority points based on that length of service.
And passing is 70?
Passing is 70. You'll notice with these
All
two.
the raw scores were above that.
You'll notice with this list, they are point scores, not band scores. Typically, we see 100, 95, 90. With all upper level upper level police and fire series, they are point scores, not band scores.
There's an interesting delay in that video. Easily entertained.
I'm glad you said it so I didn't have to. So I believe, Chair Bott, we would need a motion and a second to adopt the list.
Oh, okay,
Motion to adopt the list.
and I'll second it.
Thank you.
Shall I move on?
Please, centralized exams.
Yeah, centralized exams. So We have centralized exams are of course the ones that are prepared by and rated by the state. They're held on a fixed state basis. That's the vast majority, 90% of the exams we give. So just a quick review, there's really not many updates from the last meeting that we had. I mentioned purchasing agent and accountant, those are both pending scheduling. Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Transportation, that was requested in August. That's a title that's used in the school district. It's a new title. I think the commission adopted the job description back in June. Ordinance Inspector, no action there. Police Officer was just held on the 18th of this month. Transit Working Supervisor, that was administered back in July. One candidate took that on a promotion basis, waiting for the scores there. Fire Captain, this is anxiously being awaited by the fire department due to some upcoming retirements and also a provisional, well, not a provisional, a temporary captain appointment. That was held on June 26th, so we are anxiously awaiting those results. Senior Account Clerk was requested back in February. Administrative Specialist requested in, oh golly, that was September of 2020. Police Sergeant was the list that you just adopted. Water and Sewer Supervisor, that was another new title, but we have a provisionally appointed employee there. That was requested in February of 2020, so that's coming up on its second birthday. Records Management Clerk, that one, oh golly, look Dave, this one celebrated its third birthday. That Records Management Clerk is a title that was used in our police department. That was requested on August 3rd of 2019. So obviously we've stumped the state testing division. They must still be trying to develop a test plan for it. And then Transit Director, that was requested in June of 2019. So that one also has celebrated its, well, not third birthday, its second birthday. So.
Did they send you receipts of your requests?
Well, so the paper that I'm looking at is a print off from their system that I log into, and it shows the title, a confirmation number, who it was requested by, and the request date. So I rely on their information to provide the report, but yeah, I mean, if there's something, I mean, at this point, I probably should reach out to them and just ask if there's a problem or what the delay is, but I have not done that yet, but I can. As far as decentralized exams, those are ones that are, while prepared by the state, we get to pick the date and we administer them. So as I mentioned, at the end of October, October 23rd, we've got 2 exams. One is water and wastewater treatment plant operator trainee. We are having a retirement in our wastewater treatment facility, somebody who's been with us for over 30 years. So we're gonna just try to be a little proactive in getting the exam scheduled so that way we can have a list to appoint from. And the other one is library clerk. There are some provisionally appointed library clerks, 2 of them
Yes, 2.
at the Huntington Memorial Library. So these tests will take care of those statuses. That's all I have for exams.
And we have no old business, but 4.
I was not able to find any old business in the minutes or in the notes that required follow-up, but if anybody has anything, of course. No? Okay. So the first item under new business is, and it's not really new business because we've talked about this before, but Greg and I, in conjunction with our Community Development Director, Judy Pangman, have been working for some time. So let me take a step back. Judy is the Director of Community Development as a department of one person. She has a lot of responsibility for grants management and really kind of, helping the city find creative funding sources to fund a variety of projects and do all kinds of stuff that we otherwise would not be able to afford. She's a really diligent worker, conscientious person, and the city's really lucky to have her. Recognizing, though, that as a department of one, she can be extremely limited in the types of things she can do because she has no help. So to really expand that and where the city wants to go in terms of grant funding and such, it's been identified for some time at the council level that there really needs to be a second person. I mean, Russ, I think this was a conversation even still when you were on council. So Greg and Judy and I worked together and came up with a Deputy Community Development Director job description. I'd be happy to review it with you, or I can just pass it around for you to peruse. It is in line with the director job, just at a deputy level, so it's functioning effectively the same way. And of course, we're requesting that this be jurisdictionally classified as competitive, so there would be a civil service exam, so there should not be any concerns there. I guess I will just pass it around, but what I would be looking for from you with this one is just to officially adopt the job class specification, as we've presented it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the grants have some administrative money attached to them that actually the city can take to fund that position, or?
I don't know, I mean, I would hate to speak on something I'm really not all that clear about, but I could certainly talk to Judy and ask. I mean, I do believe you're right though, Russ, that there are administrative monies built into many of these grants that we can use to offset city expenses,
Right.
but I can't give you any good examples or provide any real information.
Okay. Has been a salary range adopted yet, or?
I think it's set at 50,000, 50 to 60, somewhere in there. It's fully budgeted. It's been budgeted since the beginning of the year, but Judy, very magnanimously agreed to hold off on taking any real action, just because obviously the pandemic had created some financial uncertainty. But it was reviewed again, I believe, by the council in July as a budgetary reconsideration, and from what I understand from Greg, there's momentum to fill the job, or at least start looking. We did until we created the job description, we weren't even really sure exactly what it was we were looking for.
I think you could put more educational background fields in that description. I know it says or related fields, but
Such
it
as
starts off with business, urban planning, regional planning. I've forgotten it was a minute, but grants development might be something along those lines. I suspect there are actually degree programs.
If you would like to make a request a modification, that we expand those, I mean, we can certainly.
Well, and I don't have any specific, but yeah, I'd like to see a few more, so identified degree programs that.
Says a degree in urban planning, environmental planning, finance.
So you're thinking, you said, Keith, specifically, you said grants, grant management. I mean, what other types of?
Is there, I didn't,
Is economic development listed in there?
I did not see that.
Can you get a degree in economic?
Business, urban planning, environmental planning, finance, or a related field
Well, I guess we can say that.
in the field of community development. Didn't go very far.
Thank you.
It's long.
It's long. Sorry. A lot of responsibility in that job.
Yeah.
We want the person to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Providing we can find someone and we end up hiring them and the council funds it, I'm not sure where we're gonna actually put the person. So that's one of my other considerations. I mean, I don't know literally physically, Dave, where we're gonna put that person.
Judy's office cannot have two people in it.
No.
I understand the Empire State Building has quite a few vacancies.
Okay. Look into that. So I think, providing there's no questions or concerns, I would be looking for a motion to adopt, with, with expanded identified degree programs related to grants, grant management, economic development and planning and things like that. So I'd like to do a little bit of research before identifying the specific fields, but
Yeah,
your
and
concern is noted.
By all means, talk with the director and see if they have.
Sure.
So I, so move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so the next one is a little easier. It's custodial worker. If you may recall, back in April, we had a request from the Oneonta City School District to add a bullet to the job description that any incumbent as a custodial worker may be required to operate a motor vehicle to perform courier duties. It was on a limited as-needed basis because they were kind of having trouble. It kind of fit with the rest of the job description. It was a very minor modification. So of course, with that additional responsibility, we had to add in a special requirement that a person would possess and maintain a valid New York State driver's license. So I think no good deed goes unpunished, because I was contacted by the school district and they're attempting to fill a position in this title, and the person is not one of those custodial workers who will be assigned to any courier duties. They will be assigned to just doing building tasks. So the person did not have a driver's license but was otherwise well qualified. So after discussion with the school district, I believe it would be fair to modify the special requirement from stating, as of the date of application, candidates must possess a valid New York State driver's license and must maintain it for the duration of employment. The modified language would state that as of the date of application, candidates may be required to possess a driver's license and must maintain it for the duration of employment, depending on the incumbent's area of assignment. So it just gives the school district a little flexibility in requiring driver's licenses in some cases and not in others, depending on how they're going to be, assigning the person. And what we're experiencing is typically why we don't like to broadly classify jobs, but I think in the school district case it really made sense.
I have no problem with it, but I will anticipate that in the not too distant future, somebody will come in and try to elevate that, well, I'm a courier as well as a custodial worker. I need supervisory responsibilities. I'm only half kidding, but.
Again, I think no good deed goes unpunished, but I think that, the school district has articulated a fair and objective reason for requesting the change. Given the context of the labor shortage, I'd like to work with them to make this work out for them if we can.
What are the problems with having two separate job descriptions? Custodial worker and custodial worker / courier.
We could do that, and that would probably be the more appropriate way to do it. It became a problem because they wanted to take the currently hired folks and kind of adopt this change for the people who are there as well as any people who are hired in the future, which is why there were some concerns with their union negotiations and other parts of it that are unrelated to civil service, why we kind of agreed to just add in this responsibility. But what you're suggesting is absolutely the correct thing to do, and I think that we should look at that. We didn't want the district, my preference would have been to just adopt a courier job description, but the response I got from the district was that they did not have enough work to justify having just a full-time courier, which is why they wanted to just add it on to what these other folks were doing.
Well, I'd say I'll move to adopt it and hope that we'll not be back here in 6 months or a year.
I'll do my best.
One second.
The next is senior water treatment plant operator, and this is really just a stylistic change. So right now in our water treatment plant, we've got operator, trainees, operator, senior operator, chief operator. That's the hierarchy of the operators, and a lot of the status is determined by the number of years of experience they have actually operating the plant. So under the minimum qualifications for a senior treatment plant operator, it says 2 years of experience as a water treatment plant operator, capitalized. So it was kind of clear to me that perhaps the intent was that you need to function in that title, proper noun. However, upon looking at it and consulting with our chief operator, Stan Schaefer, it's really more appropriate to say that the person has 2 years of actual experience operating a plant, because those minimum qualifications would very clearly limit the people who could be eligible for that job. What we're really looking for is the operation of the plant, not what title you held, because theoretically you could be operating a plant as a lab director. You could be operating a plant as, I don't know, I can't even give you another good example, but I just like to make it a little bit less title specific, because that's really more appropriate for a promotion type situation, and just make it clear that all we're looking for is that you have 2 years of operation of a plant, the specific type of plant, which is a 1A treatment facility. And these qualifications match up with the state regulatory agency, Department of Health.
What are the 2 or 3 levels that you mentioned?
So folks start off, the entry level is operator trainee, which is the test that Dave and I are going to be giving in October. And then after you successfully complete your traineeship, which is typically anywhere between 6 months and a year, generally more like a year, then you become a full operator. And then after you're an operator for a couple years, then you're eligible to become a senior operator. And then from a senior operator, you know, you can become a chief operator. We have one, it's Stan. He's been with us for literally 40 years. He knows everything about our water treatment facility, and he's great. So those are the levels.
So you could be a trainee for 1 year and an operator for 1 year and qualify as a senior water treatment plant operator.
Theoretically, under what I'm proposing, yes, you could, but the state views, as long as the person is actually operating the plant, even as a trainee, you're actually turning valves and dealing with chemical adjusters and things like that, so they're looking at it as valuable experience. I mean, and, you know, similarly, if you had somebody who is operating the plant but also assigned to a lab title, I mean, that our qualifications would completely disqualify someone from, I mean, we really want to make it more experience-based than title-based.
And Stan has weighed in on this.
Stan has requested this change.
I have no problems. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. The last thing, I don't know how you'll feel about this, but this is our, let's talk about physical fitness. So you know that the commission has a physical fitness policy for police and fire candidates. We've recently talked about fire. Police were getting ready to administer from the test that was done in September. The police have been very clear with us that they feel very strongly that any candidate should get one chance. You get one chance to prepare, and if you don't pass successfully all 3 parts, the push-ups, the sit-ups, and the run, then that's your chance, and you're out until next year. You can, you know, please play again in a year. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, given our recruitment challenges, but again, the police department feels very strongly about that, and the exam was advertised in a certain manner, and I don't think we need to really be considering that right now. We recently appointed a new fire chief, Brian Knapp, who some of you probably know, and in doing a little civil service training with him, he was shocked to find out that this policy applied to both police and fire. As the fire chief, he feels a little bit differently and feels like, you know, given our recruitment challenges and our difficulties and our pretty high fail rate on our physical agility test for firefighter candidates, he would like to make an allowance for one retest for candidates who do not successfully complete it. And the difference, I think that you can justify a difference between police and fire because the activities that police officers and firefighters are doing when they go off to their respective training academies are very different. So the test that is administered is identical, the push-ups, the sit-ups, and the run, to what police officer recruits will be doing when they go to the entry-level law enforcement academy. On the fire side, they don't do those things. They do a CPAT, which is a candidate physical ability test, which is that drag the dummy, go up a ladder, climb stairs type test. So while there's still a certain amount of physical agility and ability required, it's very different than what the police are doing. So in order to have an inclusive policy where we are not unfairly disqualifying candidates who are otherwise well qualified and who may be successful, the chief and I discussed allowing for one retest for candidates who do not successfully complete it, for firefighter candidates only. That's not people who don't fail to turn up. If we send you a notice and say your test is to be this day and this time, show up, and you don't come, that's different. This is for people who come, they do their best, for whatever reason they're not successful. We would like to permit one test. So that is the request before you from the fire department. I believe it is a fair request.
Yeah, I think if the chief wants it, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, especially, if you look at, the fail rate on physical agility is high. And so, when we're looking at, when I was, caterwauling to you about having 25 police officer candidates, we lose 50% to physical agility right off the bat. So we're really looking at 10 people. Firefighters, their fail rate is 75%. It's even higher. So, I have long thought that there needs to be some sort of gauge of physical agility because of the important, strenuous, physical, dangerous type of work that these folks are doing. But is the push-up, sit-ups, and run the most appropriate gauge? In the absence of any other real way to administer some other alternate form of test, we just defer and rely on what the police use. But I think this is something that we collectively really need to take a look at. Again, our firefighters, we had 12 candidates, Dave?
Yeah,
And
it was really low.
And out of
Yep.
those 12, that for the test that was administered on May 1st, we have 5. So, again, I do think that, much to Liz's point, it's a request from the department. They kind of were operating under the assumption that one retest was permitted anyway, so they're just kind of reverting to the policy as it was in 2017, because it looks like it was, well, actually, wait a minute, no, it looks like it was removed in 2014, reinstated in 2017. So I think they were thinking it was the pre-2017 policy, which was you got some retests, from what I understand.
If it were up to me, I'd let them take it 3 times, honestly, because I think it might be a wake-up call for some people to, one, find out that they can't do, 30 push-ups or whatever they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, it's a way of saying, yeah, we're serious. But we no longer have annual physical fitness requirements, is that correct?
We do not. That was removed, I don't know how long ago, maybe Dave would know, but
It was before 2015. Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah,
For either police or fire.
correct?
correct. Yeah.
Which, so you pass it once.
Pass it once and then you're done. Yeah, which, is something I understand.
Retests were a big topic when I was in civil service school in 2018. And the prevailing wisdom among civil service then was they're not worth our time because you only get about 10 to 15% that come and take it again that actually pass. We are in such a different world now than we were 3 years ago because every single candidate is precious. We're not in a world anymore where we're going to put an advertisement in the newspaper and get 50 applicants. We have to push for every candidate we can get. And I think even if you do only get 10% that take a retest and pass it, it's absolutely worth our time and effort now because candidates are at such a shortage.
Very well said, Dave. I agree completely. And ultimately what I'd like to move towards is finding an agency that will be able to administer a modified CPAT, which is a really job-based physical agility test as part of the examination process rather than the push-ups, sit-ups, and the run. Not saying that our firefighters are any less fit, but just it needs to be a job appropriate related to the skills and physical fitness required. It's just, it's hard to find those agencies to do it. But for the next time, and we'll be giving the test again next year because of our participation and then our failure rate, we'll be doing it again next year.
Like I say, I'd like to see the police do it, and, you know, I would go for more, but if what we have in front of us is one for the fire, that's, I'll go
Start.
to.
What was that, Russ?
It's a start.
The start, yeah. So I think what I would be looking for is just, yeah, I can pass this around if you'd like, but, I mean, what I changed it to say is that, you know, all candidates seeking appointment as a police officer have to take and pass the qualifying physical fitness agility test as part of the application process. Candidates are required to take and pass the test on the first attempt. No retest will be permitted. That was exactly the language as it stands pertaining to police and fire. I removed firefighters out of the section and added a paragraph below saying all candidates seeking appointment to the position of firefighter in the city of Oneonta must take and pass a qualifying physical fitness, physical agility test as part of the application process. Candidates who attend but do not successfully complete the physical agility test on the first attempt will be permitted one retest. Candidates will not be permitted subsequent retests.
Seems to cover it. Are call firefighters required to do anything?
Call firefighters are non-competitive, so they are not being appointed through the competitive civil service examination process. So this physical fitness test that's happening is really for some of our part-timers and all of our full-timers. It just depends on how you qualify. But that said, if you're hired as a call firefighter and we send you to the fire academy, then you're doing some form of physical agility stuff there. But the policy as it stands really applies to the competitive examination process only, which is the written test and then the physical agility part. So providing there's no other concerns, I think it would just be a motion to accept the modified fitness retest waiver policy with the changes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. I think the chief will be happy with this. That concludes the new business that I had, Chair Bat.
Well, great. No one needs an executive session for anything, correct?
No.
Well, enjoy the rest of the first day of autumn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second that.
So we are adjourned at 4:43 p.m.